Hello everybody, it's me, Corbin. I'm going to be doing a shorter video today that's just on my phone. It's not going to have an outro or anything. It's just a small, simple video where I'm going to be talking about books that I think everybody should read. Like, these are the books that I think are important and that every person should read them. I'm actually missing one. I forgot to get this one before I started the video. So, first book is going to be the one that I think is the most obvious, which is the Bible. Obviously, I think everybody should read the Bible. It's the most historically significant thing that's ever been written. The most significant book. Like, so much of Christianity has impacted morality and even science. Like, we wouldn't have science today would be nothing without the foundations from Christianity. And I think that really it's the most significant book. If you want to understand the world and you want to understand morality, or you want to know what people thought back then, this is important to read, obviously. And I also think that there are good moral values in it. Obviously, there's things I disagree in it. There's things I'm gonna disagree with in any text, because at the end of the day, it's written by humans. I'm not one of those types of people that takes everything in the Bible as complete fact, but I take a lot of it as truth, and I think it's important. And there's also the next book I'm going to be talking about is The Virtue of Selfishness by Ayn Rand. Ayn Rand has other books that are much bigger, that go over a lot more, but this, I think, breaks down the basics, and I think if you want to learn about why selfishness is a virtue, that's the book to read. If you want to learn about Ayn Rand and what she believed, I think this is the basic book that you should read first. Like, this is something that simplifies it. Talks about the objectivist ethics, and talks about moral grayness. There's no such thing as being morally gray, because a compromise of a good would just automatically be an evil, right? And she talks about how selfishness isn't as simple as doing whatever I want just because I want to do it and that'll make me happy. But selfishness is more complicated than that, as in, like, to be an alcoholic or a gambler or any of that. If anything, that isn't selfish. If anything, that's selfless. You're giving yourself away, But to be selfish is to do what's in your best interest, which will usually be what's in the best interest of your community. And I think Ayn Rand, she shortens everything. Simple enough read. I think you should read it. It's really easy to understand. Like, out of any philosophy book, this is pretty easy to understand because it's not filled with a bunch of vague ideas, That's because Ayn Rand was inspired by this next writer or philosopher, Aristotle. This is Aristotle Politics. I think that this is a very important book. Aristotle, I believe, coined, I believe that the word politics comes from Aristotle, and Aristotle sets the foundations for a lot of what we currently believe, I think, in this book. And he even talks about slavery being a part of human nature, basically saying that that a society can't really function without some form of slavery, which is still true. America still currently benefits from slavery, despite slavery being illegal in America. Like, we still benefit from the slavery of other countries. In any way you look at it, for the society to keep going, there needs to be some form of slavery. There always has to be people at the bottom and people at the top. But he also talks about about women being slaves in nature too. It's pretty good read, though. You should read it. It's important in it, and Aristotle coined a lot of the terms that we use today, and politics as we know it would be different today. Without Aristotle, without the Bible, without that, politics would be different. What we'd call it probably wouldn't even be politics. We'd have something different. And here is Sigmund Freud's The Ego and the Id. This is an important book if you want to understand psychology. I think this is the basics. Like, because he talks about the ego, he talks about the id, he talks about the Oedipus complex. You know, he thought it's all in there. Like, all the basics. Talks about consciousness. If you want to understand psychology, I think this is the basic book to read. You know, I think Sigmund Freud, people give him a lot of crap now for certain things he said, but I think more than the other psychologists, he's less objective, and I think that he's sort of right that humans are motivated mostly by sexual desires. I think he's actually kind of onto something. And I think that if you observe behavior of other people, that you'll find that Sigmund Freud is right about a lot of things. And next is Thus Spake Zarathustra, a book written by Nietzsche. This is a book that inspired, you know, the Nazis, but not. So if you read it, I think you do understand something about what Nazis, what Nazis believed, and I think you do also. But I think that there are also actually good lessons to learn in it, other than the tragedies that it may or may not have led to. But it's what Nietzsche talks about in it. I think what he's saying is that, you know, the idea of God should be abandoned, which I don't agree with. I think that religion is much more effective than philosophy, but what he's talking about is, you know, Nietzsche's the one who said God is dead, and the point of that is to say that humans take the place of God in a way where the humans, where the Übermensch is like the superior man, which is where we get Superman from, and the idea of the Übermensch taking the position of God, you know, the idea of man, the superior man, and the idea of the will to power, you know, like that you, all of these ideas that you might have heard from certain National Socialists, but it's still interesting. It's pretty relevant. I mean, it's pretty relevant in culture in general. Like, a lot of, like, you know, there's a lot of nihilists. Even though Nietzsche wasn't a nihilist, Nietzsche thought nihilism was a bad thing, the same way he thought the Nazis were a bad thing. So he inspired people in a way that he didn't even mean to. And then we have also another Nietzsche book, Beyond Good and Evil, which I think is another important book of his. This is where he has like a bunch of quotes, and one of them being if you stare into the abyss stares back. But he also says things about Christianity that I think are true, even though I disagree with, you know, his perspective of sort of moving past religion. But he even says that he says that there are things about Christianity that are good and bad. But still, the position that he has is basically that I think he's saying that we need to think about morality in a different way. Basically, not thinking of it as morality, but that we need to start something new in the place of morality, the same way he thinks that we need something new in the place of God, you know. And I think that what people like Nietzsche, Freud, Darwin, and Carl Jung, who were all based their work off of each other, I think what they were trying to do ultimately was replace the concept of God with the concept of nature, you know. Finding a natural explanation for things that we used to say, this was God did this, which I think it can be both. I think that it can be both. I think that evolution doesn't contradict Christianity necessarily. If you look at what Christianity, if you look at the original story of the Bible, I don't think that contradicts evolution. I think, if anything, it's in support of evolution. I feel like it's a story about evolution, if anything, the story of Adam and Eve. because they when they eat from the fruit, they learn something, and something changes them, and they learn that they're naked, right? So there was something different about them that's been changed. And then you look at the serpent loses its legs for what it did. If anything, that's an evolutionary change. So I think if anything, evolution is definitely in support of the concept that everything has a design, you know. And then I think I should get on to the next book, which is the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. I think this is another book that is important for obvious reasons, especially if you're an American. But even if you're not an American, I think this is good because it shows what the importance of a constitution and having something that not just gives you a bunch of rules, but gives you a bunch of rights. Something that every country needs is, you know, a list of unbreakable rules or a list of unbreakable rights that can't be changed. You know, I think that what democracy has become is actually in a rejection to what the founding fathers believed in, and I think that democracy has ultimately failed, as many philosophers have thought it would, and I think that this is an important read, though, because it shows the importance of establishing beforehand what the rules or the rights are of the people that cannot be changed. So it's an important thing. And also it's important to know what these rules are if you're an American, you know, and to know what your rights are, even though it doesn't really matter and the government can do whatever they want to you and you're basically their property. But still. So those are my picks for books that I think are important and I think that everybody should read. I hope you have a good day.